Gone midnight at the border of Wayhaven. Ava thrusts her chilled hands into her coat pockets as she stares out through the thick forest of trees that encircle the clearing where she and Farah are currently waiting. Out in the shadow of those trees are Nat and Morgan. The two of them are scouting for trapper patrols. The detective is looking for the entrance to the old sewer system where the trappers have holed up. It figures they'd run into a place of such squalor. They know no better. Farah cranes her neck to peer out into the darkness where the detective had disappeared not long before. The youngest agent has been pacing and huffing out breaths every second the detective has been gone from her sight. I hope they're being careful, Farah says, wringing her hands together in front of her as she continues to gaze through the darkness in vain. Ava frowns. And I hope you're being careful. What? Farah arches a brow. You and Detective Langford. Farah raises her hands up. Oh, come on now. You can't stop it now it's started. I wouldn't stop it, Ava says through a groan sigh. I can tell how you feel about them. I think even a mere human could work out how much the detective sends every part of you into a ridiculous flutter. A smile breaks out over Farah's face. Yeah, I just can't help it though, you know? Being with them is, well, it's like nothing I've ever experienced before, and I like it. Another long breath finds its way out through Ava's tight lips. Just take care, Farah. I've no desire to see either of you hurt. What makes you think that will happen? Because we live in a world where happiness attracts darkness better than anything else, Ava comments with a tinge of regret to the words. Farah pouts. Way to be a bummer about it all. Ava lets out a laugh almost against her will, then places a hand in a warm gesture on Farah's shoulder. It was not my intention. I am happy for you both. Oh man, you should have warned me. I would have recorded that. Now the others will never believe that you said that. Ava rolls her eyes, but a smile remains on her face. Farah's hand moves over to Ava's. But seriously, thanks for looking out for me. I will never stop doing so, she replies with a nod. The conversation comes to a natural end as they hear the sound of approaching footsteps. Ava tenses at the newcomer, but realizes quickly it's no one of threat as a wide beaming smile radiates from Farah's face. In the old sewer tunnels. After meeting back up with Ava and Farah, I lead the way to the nearby entrance. I have no idea why a drain system should appeal to anyone, but apparently it's irresistible to a variety of people, as I have to kick my way past empty cans and more than a few food boxes. I wait until Ava and Farah have shimmied down the narrow ladder into the oversized pipe below, then follow after them. I make it all the way down to the last rung before my foot slips and I almost fall into the tunnel. My boots splash into a small river of something I would prefer not to think about, as I just managed to find my footing. You alright? Farah blurts out in concern. I give a nod, then slice my flashlight through the darkness which drowns the tunnel. Farah sidles up beside me with a growing smile. It's kinda dark down here. You wanna share your flashlight? You can see in the dark, Farah, Ava states. Farah snaps her narrowed gaze to the team leader. Thanks for ruining the mood. Save it for when we get out of here safely, Ava says while staring down the selection of tunnels. Farah pouts. So which way do we go? It's this way, I say, gesturing down one of the tunnels. There are recent footprints. Ava nods and we all carefully tread our way through the shallow river of watery muck, following the curves and corners of the pipe. The mission is simple. We get in. Oh, we've done that part pretty good. Farah interrupts Ava's speech. Ava sighs. We get in, we rescue Sandra, and then we leave. That's it. Right. In and out, I say with a definite nod. Got it. Farah chuckles. What? Ava asks with annoyance, piercing the word. Farah's eyes glitter with mischief in the dim light. In and out. Oh god. Ava rolls her eyes, letting out a groan which echoes down the tunnel. The pipeline snakes on until we come to a halt at another intersection. The ground is dry here, and any signs of footprints are long gone. The only things remaining are the patches of moss and mold which cling to the cement walls like blobs of green goo. We all draw to a stop. Ava places her hands on her hips. The agency could only tell us they are somewhere in the sewer system, not exactly where they are. She runs a hand over the back of her neck in thought. If we take the trappers by surprise, we'll have more chance of getting Sandra out of here safely. And you plan to do that how? Farah juts her hands out. If we traipse about aimlessly down here, they're bound to hear us coming. Farah has a point. Our best chance is to find out where the trappers are and head there via the most direct route. A gentle plip-plop rings out around us from a small trickle of water that drips from the ceiling. It provides the only sound as we all fall into a thoughtful silence. Hmm. Let's attempt to work it out. While Ava and Farah stare down each tunnel in turn, I shift closer to the selection of pipelines and slide my flashlight down each one. The light bounces off a set of dull but sturdy smaller pipes. They run the length of each tunnel wall before curving around to join up and head past our group. So what now? Farah asks. Ava doesn't reply, and neither do I. I'm too distracted by the pipes, and I shuffle closer to inspect them. Reaching out a hand, I press my fingertips to the painted metal covering and find it warm to the touch. I move my ear near to it. The hiss of steam echoes from inside each pipe. It's a reasonable deduction to think the pipes likely run through this whole sewer system. What are they doing? Farah asks in a whisper behind me. I'm not sure, Ava replies. I curve closer to the pipes, the heat of them warm against my cheek, frowning as I do my best to listen. The steam continues to blast through the pipes. There's nothing more, still nothing, and then a voice, another voice, and an echo of commotion. Swinging around, I follow the trail of the pipes with my gaze. It twists and turns down the middle tunnel. They're down there, I state with confidence, sliding my flashlight into the gloom of the middle pipeline. Ava and Farah stare down the tunnel before looking back at me. Ava gives a nod. Let's go. And without hesitation, the group of us move off down the pipeline as cautiously as haste allows. The tunnel's floor is much drier here, and we manage to keep our footsteps quiet and light with no squelching or splashing to give away our approach. My light beams down the long pipe before it bounces off something at the far end. A door. A door from which a whisper of voices is steadily creeping. The three of us hunker down beside a small concrete protrusion to hide ourselves if anyone should come out. I shiver as the chill of the concrete seeps through my clothing where I'm leaning against it. My gaze moves over to the end of the tunnel. It's a dead end except for the door. They have to be in there, I whisper. Seems likely, Ava replies, also surveying the scene. Farah looks over at us. So we going guns blazing? Ava shakes her head. No, that could lead to too many casualties. My hand drops to the Volt gun I brought with me. It recharges automatically after each burst, so at least I know I have a weapon until the cartridge runs out. I guess the vampires are weapons in themselves. We should get the jump on them like we hoped, Farah mumbles. We'll head in and announce ourselves, then we'll demand their surrender. Yeah, that's gonna go well, Ava says. Farah snorts. Oh yeah, great plan. I'm sure that will work. What do we have to lose? They won't surrender. They aren't going to surrender. I say as though it's obvious. There's no point in even trying to make them. You cannot be sure of that. None of us can be certain of what's ahead, Ava states. Neither can you, I counter with a frown. No, but this way may give us some chance of catching them off guard enough that they do surrender. I shake my head, then almost flinch as Ava's hand settles on my shoulder. Please trust me on this, detective. At least this time, she asks. A breath of resignation escapes me. Thank you. She stands from a hiding place. Let's go. I follow, but keep my hand on my weapon in case this all goes horribly wrong. Ava busts through the door with her shoulder, and it's cleaved away from the hinges. It crashes into the room with an almighty bang. The burst of sunlight has me shying away for a moment, but I quickly blink away the sting and survey the space. It's a square concrete room packed with pipes, old rusting equipment, and large concrete blocks spaced around that once housed panels which have long since been stripped away. A large gaggle of people almost fall out of chairs at our sudden arrival. Relief almost makes me lose focus as I see Sandra, still alive, to one side. She's strapped to a chair by rope bindings, her feet submerged in a bowl of water. Her skin is stained red and purple with bruises and blood. I can't see her face as her head has rolled down. Another trapper stands near to her, wielding a rod with a sharp end that glows with white-blue sparks. The trapper stares at us wide-eyed, paralyzed with confusion. We are Unit Bravo of the agency, and we are here to arrest all those involved in the kidnapping of this woman. Surrender now. Ava's voice booms through the room with the force of a foghorn. To my amazement, it seems to put the group on the defensive, but their surrender doesn't seem likely. Panicking and confused, the trappers all scramble for their electrical rod-like weapons or dive for cover. Ava and Farah move to subdue the closest ones before they can manage their task, and I'm left with a trapper who's stumbling towards me in a pathetic attempt at a right hook. I manage to avoid the attack, watching as the man staggers past me and almost knocks himself out by crashing into the wall behind us. But he's not done yet. He heaves himself off the wall, using the momentum to come at me with a yell, his hands waving wildly. Dodge it. Waiting until he's only a foot away, I swing around and once more let him flail past me. He trips on the broken door in the process. He crashes to the ground with such force that even I wince at the impact. With a groan, he rolls back onto his back and stares at me closely. "You're not an agent," he concludes, wiping at his mouth and glaring at me. Give the man a prize. Hmm. I mean, we're definitely stunning him. Don't engage in terror. Don't engage with terrorists. I don't even deign to give him a reply. Instead, I jab the Volt gun into his shoulder. There's a buzz of sparks, and he's suddenly convulsing on the ground. Then he falls very still. His chest rises and sinks in shallow breaths, so he's still alive, but definitely out of the fight. Yet the commotion catches the attention of the trapper nearby, the one who is holding Sanja at the end of her own electrically charged weapon. She inspects me for a moment before her gaze drops to my police badge. Recognition that I didn't expect dawns on her face, making her mouth drop open. She spins around to her allies. "It's them!" I lean back in sudden surprise. "What? Are you sure?" Another asks, the fighting calming somewhat as the conversation echoes through the room. "The blood test result! It was them!" The woman faces me once again with a snarled smile. "Forget the fortune teller, we only need them!" I stumble back a step as the attention of each trapper swivels in my direction. Sandra lets out a sudden cry as the trapper beside her digs the electric rod into her side. She flops over, a coil of steam rising from the bucket of water at her feet. Oh crap. 3 trappers dodge the mess of equipment strewn over the room to stalk towards me. I prepare myself. But 2 of them are sent onto the ground as Farah flashes out of nowhere and trips them up. They take off after Farah, who's already moving at a speed none of us can keep up with. The remaining trapper stares at her friends, then flashes her attention back to me with gritted teeth. Hmm. Um, let's attempt to use the equipment on hand to gain an advantage. As the woman paces closer, the electrical prod she wields sparks with blue energy that crackles from the end of it like vicious taunts. I grip my Volt gun tighter in my grasp, its own current of electricity glowing gold at the tip. We keep a distance between us, inspecting each other's stance, both refusing to be the first to move. But she is impatient. She lunges forward, splashing into a puddle of water as she does so. I dip down, spying the moisture, then look to my electrically charged weapon. The woman's eyes widen. I give a smile, and then I slam my Volt down into the water. Golden electrical sparks sizzle and zap across the puddle in an impressive display, but come to a direct halt when they hit the thick rubber-soled boots of my attacker. The woman lets out a deep laugh, then lashes out with her own weapon. "Ah! Ah!" The yell erupts from me as the charge burns my skin. I roll back onto the floor, grasping at my deadened arm as the sting of electricity sends twitches to the rest of my system. The woman leers down at me. I grip my teeth. "Hey!" Farah's voice cuts across the room. The woman stares to the side but doesn't see the blur of motion that is Farah. The youngest vampire snatches the prod out of the woman's hand and sends a crackle of charged energy coursing through her system. She drops like a brick. Her unconscious face is thankfully not so gloating. "Here, I'll give you a hand." But her offer is interrupted by another trapper who smashes her fist into Farah's cheek. "Farah!" I yell. She backs up a few steps with a smile. "Don't worry about me, just see to yourself." And the fighting begins once again. I let out a groan, trying to push myself to my feet while getting a grip on my own mind. Pins and needles sting my arm, though the limb seems to be gradually coming back to life. During the moment's respite, I take full stock of the situation, and my stomach sinks at what I find. To one side of the room, Farah is being overwhelmed by trappers. They beat and prod her until she is backed into a corner. Her voice is barely more than a whimper as they continue their electrically charged assault. As I swing my head around, I notice more trappers stalking their way towards Sanja with a wicked glint flashing in their eyes. My heart strangles in my chest as I stare back at Farah. Her amber eyes find mine through the crowd, and they widen in silent pleading. My focus swings between Farah and Sanja. Well, I have to. Fry yelps out a pained cry, and all thought of saving anyone else is gone from my mind. Apparently, it's the same for someone else, too. Hurrah! Ava booms across the room with fear tinging the word. The team leader is trying to wade through the sea of trappers who each prod and poke at her with zaps of electricity. It doesn't seem to be affecting her as much as Farah, but there's a pinched, pained expression to her face and a slouch to her shoulders. As a nearby trapper raises her electrical prod like a sword at Ava, I grab a nearby piece of broken pipe and slam it into her stomach. She wheezes out a breath, dropping onto her knees. Ava strides into the space the trapper left. She glances to me for a mere second, and an understanding forms between us. As she makes the step forward, I jab the ragged end of the pipe into the shoulder of the trapper about to stun Ava. The man wails and falls back. Ava advances again. The trappers are so focused on Ava each time that they don't see me coming up behind them to take them out. Ava doesn't even look at me as she moves, just marching through the trappers and stepping over their groaning forms as they fall to the ground in front of her. When we make it to the front, I arc my makeshift weapon up under the chin of one of the few remaining trappers, and Ava swipes a solid arm to the side to take out 3 more. The pipe falls from my blistered hand and clangs onto the ground as I let out a series of heavy breaths. My gaze slides towards Ava. She nods at me, a strain and a film of perspiration on her skin. Right. I mimic the gesture, dipping my head into a quick nod of respect. My acceptance of the moment has Ava's shoulders dropping about an inch in relief before her gaze drops too. She stares over the surprising amount of moaning trappers at our feet. I hadn't realized there were so many of them. Bra groans from behind us, and I swing around to take stock of her. She's crouched over on all fours, blood dripping from a burnt gash in one shoulder, but the wound is already beginning to heal. Tears and charred ribs cover her clothing and skin. I rush forward to help her. Farah! She looks up at me, falling against the wall with relief and gazing at me through eyes which are much less vibrant than usual. She lifts a weak hand and trails her fingers against my cheek. Is she all right? Ava asks in rushed words behind me. Farah rests her head against the wall but continues to hold my gaze. I am now. Right, we're smiling. We don't have time for more right now. My whole body wobbles forward in relief, and I break into a warm smile as I look over her. A fizz of electricity and an ear-shattering scream breaks through the moment. Yeah, and that's why we don't have time. Sanja! Ava yells as we all only now seem to remember about her. We whip around to watch as her face is lit up in a glow of blue as sparks crackle across her skin. Ah! A strange shout erupts from Farah as she grips a discarded electric prod and launches it at the trapper. The handle whacks the man right in the face, and he falls onto the floor without another sound. On instinct, I reach out to Farah, who lays a hand over mine in gratitude. You better check on her, she wheezes, pointing a limp finger. Ava is already striding over to Sandra before I've managed to get up. As I approach, I can see a tightness creasing Ava's features. She's gone. I gently tip Sandra back and then glance at Ava with a nod of certainty. Farah blows out a breath and rolls her lips together. I switch my focus back to Sandra. Her dull blue eyes stare at me, wide and accusing. Ava brushes her fingers over them to close them. Footsteps pound into the room, and we all tense, but the welcome sight of Morgan and Nat fills the doorway. Morgan sneers. We missed it. And it looks like we could have been of help, Nat says while frowning with concern at Farah. We didn't manage to save her, Farah says through a deep breath. Morgan moves away and passes by Ava, who's returning to Farah's side. Nat looks over at us with a frown. Her gaze lands on Sandra and her expression falls. A sudden slickness feels strange against my hands, so I stare down to find my fingers covered with blood. Sandra's blood. Yeah, okay. A heavy breath eases out over my lips. I shake my head as I stare down at the red staining my skin. This isn't how it was supposed to go. You alright? Morgan asks as she stops in front of Sandra to double-check her status. Her expression pinches tighter when it's confirmed. I give a half nod, half shrug in response. How is anyone supposed to be alright in this situation? Morgan eases Sandra out of the chair and into her arms. Sandra's head lolls over Morgan's forearm, her waves of hair dulled as they cascade down. Her hands sit folded on her stomach. Ava lets out a grunt as she lifts Farah onto her feet. We should leave. What about this lot? Farah asks, rolling her head to indicate the mass of trappers who carpet the ground. Ava doesn't even glance at them. The agency will pick them up later. And so we all head out of the room and back up to the welcome surface to greet the night air. Next chapter.